What up? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On this show, we talk about crowdfunding, and specifically today, I want to talk about the opportunity for crowdfunding this upcoming year in 2023. So we're going to be going over a couple of things I think that we've realized, going through some information when it comes to 2022, kind of almost doing a post-mortem when it comes to the year, some of the episodes that really stood out in my mind. But for those of you as well who want to launch a crowdfunding campaign this upcoming year, we're going to be getting into some of the things that you should be aware of, some of the things that I think are going to help you, and also even assess if this is a road that you want to go down, right? Is this something that you want to pour your heart, blood, soul, sweat, and tears into launching a campaign, or maybe this isn't even the right path that you should be considering. So we're talking about a lot of that on today's podcast episode. I think this is going to be useful for you if you're really assessing whether or not this is for you. I think it's also going to be useful for just kind of putting your focus on what went right this year, some of the things that we can continue to improve on when it comes to being the crowdfunding industry as a whole, the ecosystem, which we are all a part of, and some of my own insights and thoughts that go into the actual launch process, the way that crowdfunding is growing and transforming, the way that's going to continue to do so. This is going to be a solo episode with me, with Salvador Briggman, and it's coming up in just a second. Okay, so let's get right into it. First of all, I hope that you've been having an incredible year thus far and that you are excited, man. You are ramped up. You are rearing to go for 2023, that you have a lot of big goals. It really costs nothing to dream big and to think big and really be pursuing opportunity. And I really hope that that's the case when it comes to your project, that you're always thinking, that you're always working every single week towards your goals and towards your dreams, because man, that makes it feel so alive, and that makes it obviously much faster that you're actually going to accomplish those goals and those dreams. So first of all, I wanted to go over this year and a couple of episodes that stand out, as well a couple of statistics when it comes to Kickstarter, the crowdfunding platform. So first of all, we're going to go over just a couple of different statistics, and then we're going to go over a few episodes, and then we'll kind of look forward to this upcoming year, as well as some of the things I think that are kind of an opportunity for you if you're looking to launch a new crowdfunding campaign. So whether you're listening to this in the car, if you're listening to this on the way to work, if you're listening to this while you're going for a run, you're cleaning your house, whatever it is, just relax and you can absorb this information, store it in the back of your mind, and then you can take action on this when you are ready to, when it comes to your particular project. So first of all, let's first talk about Kickstarter. So as of November 2022, in terms of the stats for Kickstarter this year, we had over 570 million projects that were launched on Kickstarter, which is a hugely impressive number. Thinking about that, 570 million projects, right, that have actually been launched when it comes to this year. That's a huge number of people that are taking action, that are moving towards their goals, and it's not obviously just in the United States. This is worldwide as well. So there are tons of people around the world that are launching crowdfunding campaigns. You could be in Canada, you could be in Australia, you could be in Italy, you could be in Europe. Really, I've seen so many campaigns all over the world. It could be in South Korea, it could be in Hong Kong. Doesn't matter where you are, crowdfunding is something that can allow you to connect with a huge base of people around the world, whether you're going after a US consumer or other people. So many launch projects. In terms of dollars raised, this is total dollars pledged, billion US dollars. This is 6 billion was actually pledged to Kickstarter campaigns. In terms of successful dollars, that was 6.33 billion this year when it comes to on the Kickstarter crowdfunding website. So keep in mind, there's also Indiegogo. There's also other crowdfunding websites that are out there in order to help you reach your potential, help you raise funds. A good one in Australia is Possible, right? There's a bunch of other ones I've also covered on this show. When it comes to that, Seed and Spark is a great film-based niche crowdfunding website. There are a lot of different crowdfunding sites out there, but in terms of Kickstarter, think about that. In terms of successful dollars, 6 billion were pledged in this year alone. So massive, so huge, and I think that's also very inspirational. The other quick one I want to go over before we get into more specifics of projects is the success rates. So this is an area that for me is something I'm passionate about. The reason why I continue to put out podcasts on a weekly basis, the reason why I put out YouTube videos, the reason why I'm writing books for you guys, I'm putting out blog posts, I'm trying to educate you, trying to help you, is that I think we need to see greater success rates as an industry. And this is actually something where it's going to vary from category to category, but in aggregate, overall, just kind of a fancy way of saying overall, the success rates for projects in 2022 were 40%. Okay, so 40% of the people that launched were successful. Now, if we think about that, there's actually a lot of other areas in life where that's actually incredibly high, in my opinion, of a success rate. I think in other areas as well, we think about that, it's like, oh my gosh, it's only 40%. Well, the cool thing about that is that you control a lot of the variables that go into your results and your success. In the same way that if you're going to the gym, if you're not showing up, if you're not going on runs, if you're not actually lifting weights, it's highly unlikely you're going to see the results that you want, right? So you got to be willing to put in the efforts that lead to those particular results. So there are key ways in order to improve the success rate of your campaign. And those are the types of things that I like to focus on. But for 2022, it was 40%. So let's go over just a couple of major projects. These are not ones necessarily had on my podcast, but these are ones that are in total when it comes to the crowdfunding industry. So the first one, the big daddy in the room, is Brandon Sanderson's novel, right? So he wrote a novel campaign, and he did a novel campaign on Kickstarter, and it blew everyone away. Everyone was talking about this. This was a $40 million campaign. Literally a $40 million Kickstarter campaign. Blew every single other project in terms of the history of that have been launched on Kickstarter out of the water. Up until that point in time, I think the other biggest campaign was the Pebble Time, part of the Pebble Watch kind of campaign and era, which was in 2015. That campaign raised $20 million on Kickstarter. Literally this year, we had a campaign that doubled that number. And people talk about the crowdfunding industry dying or Kickstarter no longer being as big of a thing. Think about that. Literally this year, in the entire history of Kickstarter's ecosystem and platform, we literally had the largest project ever with Brandon Sanderson. And it wasn't even a physical product. It was for a novel, my friends. And he raised $41 million for this campaign. Some other big ones from 2022 would be EcoFlow Delta Pro. This is a portable home battery project. This campaign raised, I believe it was around $12 million when it comes to their Kickstarter project. Also got Avatar Legends, the role-playing game, which raised $9.5 million in 2022. Marvel Zombies, a zombie side game that raised in 2022 that raised $9 million. So a lot of great projects that have come out this year, a lot in the physical product category. Also, a ton have happened as well on Indiegogo, which is Kickstarter's competitor. And actually, a lot of these Kickstarter campaigns are both on doing Kickstarter and then going into Indiegogo in demand, which is one of the strategies, obviously, that we talk about when it comes to my coaching calls. One of the strategies that I cover in my book, the Kickstarter Launch Formula. A lot of great stuff when it comes to that. But in my opinion, honestly, that's not all, because I think that for me, the people, the success stories, the people that are actually showing up and having those results, the ones that matter most are the ones whose voices you are hearing from directly. So on my podcast this year, I brought on many 6- and 7-figure Indiegogo and Kickstarter campaign creators from many different categories as well. We've had on people, for example, recently, like episode 418, going from being an Etsy seller to raising $215,000 on Kickstarter for the Focus Timer. We've had on other kinds of products and gizmos and more novel-based campaigns. For example, in episode 415, unique ways to raise over $379,000, and this is for League of Lexicon, which is a very interesting, almost like wordplay kind of a book, kind of a gameplay kind of project. So very interesting. We've also had on other people when it comes to being more physical gadgets and gizmos. So for example, Nura, who in episode 411 literally took an idea and turned it into $1 million Kickstarter campaign in 24 hours. My passion, my goal with you guys is to bring you on a wide array of projects from many different backgrounds, from many different areas, right? From many different locations, so that you can come to me and you're like, dude, I have no more excuses. I've seen a success story from many different types of platforms, whether that's Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or others. I've seen different types of projects, whether that's board games, tabletops, novels, physical gadgets, gizmos, even apparel style campaigns. I've seen all of these on your podcast. I'm like, okay, I guess got no other excuses, right? I've literally knocked off all of the excuses in your head. For example, in episode 402, sharing with you a story of how one female, turned a fashion idea into a $360,000 Kickstarter campaign and a major breakthrough when it comes to innovation in the apparel industry. Guys, there are literally no more excuses when it comes to crowdfunding. And every time that I have someone come to me and they're like, you know what, Sal, I understand. I want to do one of these campaigns, but I'm maybe a little bit younger. I'm maybe 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old. And I see all these guests who are like in their 30s or their 40s. Could I really do a campaign on Kickstarter? Well, my friends, when I get those kinds of questions, I point you to episode number 397. These guys invented a dog bed for humans, and they did it while they were attending college as a fun project, which they put out there online, which went viral on TikTok, and then they raised 290,000 plus on Kickstarter for Pluffle. So whether you're a younger creator or entrepreneur, whether you're someone who's a little bit older, maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or plus, there is a success story for you. And to me, that's what gets me jazzed up and excited when it comes to bringing you different episodes. However, I would be remiss to say that all of the success this year just happened on Kickstarter, because that's not true. And this is one of the big things. This is the hallmark of my brand, which is that I'd love to not only share with you what works in some of these major industries and platforms, but I also love to introduce you to the opportunity which you have not yet come to see. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that when something amazing is happening that you're not even aware of, you can hop on a trend before the rest of the industry even knows about it. And that's what I've been trying to do when it comes to educating about a new topic called equity crowdfunding. So I wrote the book, Equity Crowdfunding Explained. And the reason why I did that and why I tried to bring on some different campaigns this year when it comes to talking about equity crowdfunding, regulation crowdfunding, websites like WeFunder, Start Engine, Republic.co. The reason why I'm doing this is that this is another category within crowdfunding that I've seen literally explode this year with activity and with results. And this isn't peanuts either. So for example, in episode number 391, we went through the technique that this company, Verzoom, used in order to raise $1.32 million with a regulation crowdfunding campaign. So cool, so exciting, but that's really not enough. I started to see some of these success stories. I'm starting to put together the pieces of the puzzle. I'm like, I got to share this with you guys. I got to share this with my audience. So in episode 390, I even brought on another style of campaign, a bunch of guys who are trying to create indoor ski and snowboard activities and entertainment. And this is a wacky, wild idea, right? The fact that you could actually snow or ski indoors. But they actually were like, you know what? I want to try and raise money for this. What did they do? They launched an equity crowdfunding campaign on Republic for Alpine X. And in episode 390, they told you exactly what they did in order to raise $1.38 million using this very simple method and this very simple framework. But you can come to me and you can be like, Sal, I hear you, I understand this, but these are kind of like, those cherry-picked kind of examples. These are the examples where it's like, this isn't really the mainstream. And I started to also think about that myself. It's like, are these just really the cream of the crop, right? Are these the kind of the outliers, if you will, when it comes to success? And I started to study this industry more and more. And what I realized is that, no, this is actually a major growing trend, which you may or may not know about. And when I started to realize that, I realized I had to bring on more guests to demonstrate this to you. So for example, in episode 384, we shared the secret for raising $1.3 million on WeFunder for the W Marketplace, which is actually an online e-commerce marketplace for female entrepreneurs. And even seeing like these big numbers, like, oh, that sounds great. I mean, they're raising millions of dollars, but what about, the little guy? What about trying to raise just maybe a small seed funding round? Well, in episode 386, I brought on another entrepreneur for Net Zero who raised $162,000 on WeFunder, proving that anyone can get funding using this new strategy, this new technique, which is equity crowdfunding. So, the other thing I think that kind of, holds people back is like, okay, maybe you can do this in the United States, but like, what about if I'm in Australia? What about if I'm in Europe? So I started to also get some of those comments, some of those questions. I was like, you know what? I gotta show these guys that no matter where you are in the world, you can't be held back by some of these assumptions. So when I realized that in episode 387, I shared with you the method behind an $808,000 Crowdcube campaign. So if you don't know, Crowdcube is not based in the United States. I believe this is a UK-based equity crowdfunding portal. So these guys, for STEM and Glory, raised a mind-blowing $808,000 campaign for a restaurant. This is literally a restaurant which they raised money for. So 808, that's incredible, right? 808K for a restaurant. And this is for offering delicious and healthy vegan food to the masses. So if you want to go and listen to that, that's episode number 387. But this female entrepreneur shared with you how she used equity crowdfunding to raise money from her customers in order to grow and expand her restaurant and to be able to then grow into the future there. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. However, when it comes to equity crowdfunding, honestly, that is not all. We've seen the consolidation of many different platforms in this industry, which again, I have covered on my YouTube channel, which you can find by searching my name on YouTube for the Crowdfunding Demystified or for my name, Salvador Briggman. So for example, we've covered things, for example, how the way that Start Engine has begun to acquire more platforms in this industry. Seedrs obviously being a recent example, showing as well how Republic.co has kind of gobbled up some of the smaller competitors in the space as well, how WeFunder is exploding and growing phenomenally and rapidly and launching new projects such as the community round, which allows smaller investors and retail investors to invest alongside larger VCs and these kinds of larger investors. So to me, equity crowdfunding is certainly one of the things that this year I've realized is the future in the way that companies are raising money. So if it's not on your radar, definitely put regulation crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, and WeFunder on your radar. So we went over a couple of examples of, first of all, the way that Kickstarter is still going incredibly strong. Some of the different episodes you can go back and you can listen to, and some of the success stories from many different categories. We also just covered the way that WeFunder, Start Engine, Republic, and recently all these companies being consolidated as well with some of the smaller players, how equity crowdfunding is a growing swell. In my opinion, this is like a little wave that we were seeing in 2015, 2014, 2013, right? A very tiny wave. Living in Miami, love having obviously waves, love going out there and you can see the waves. And what you notice is that when a small wave far out, in the ocean starts to come closer and closer to the actual shoreline, you then notice how that wave gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I would go so far as to say that I think equity crowdfunding is actually a tsunami. It's a massive wave that you can't see because it's just been so far out there on the horizon. But the closer and the closer and the closer that it gets, the bigger that wave is, until you start to realize this is a huge opportunity. This is a massive wave. I got to be surfing on this thing, right? But I'm telling you this now, that this is going to be a really big thing in the coming 2 to 3 to 4 years. And it's already, in my opinion, a massive thing. So we talked a little bit about the past, right? 2022, what's happened, what's been growing, where your attention should be. Let's talk about this next year. So first of all, why should you not launch a crowdfunding campaign? Because I think that's actually the better question. I think that if you're not interested in being public, for one, if you're not interested in hustling and putting in the work to actually get marketing, to get funding, to spread the word, this is a media exercise. This is a marketing exercise. It's not just about getting funding. It's not just about maybe doing pre-orders if you're doing a Kickstarter Kickstarter, it's not just about raising capital with a WeFund or an equity crowdfunding campaign. At the end of the day, this is a marketing exercise. This is a way to grow your brand extremely quickly, but over also a very intense time period. So if you don't want to go through a business boot camp where you're condensing all of this into one short 30, 60, 90-day time frame to get something launched, to grow your brand quickly, to get customers, to get traction, to get media hits, to get people talking about you around the web, to have almost, the social viral component behind a project, you definitely should not do crowdfunding. Because I'm telling you, it's a heck of a lot of work, man. And it's also something where you got to have your ducks in a row to be able to do it. You got to have a video pitch, you got to have a campaign page, you got to know what you're providing, right? But I also would say, what else are you doing with your time, right? Because at some point in time, you got to really buckle down. You got to get focused. You got to actually put in a little bit of hard work, that blood and sweat and tears in order to see the results that you're looking for. So you can put it off, but at some point in time, you're going to have to sink your teeth into something, whether that's crowdfunding, more of a traditional launch, more of a traditional marketing and advertising approach. Doesn't matter. But if you're not interested in being public, you're not interested in using this as a marketing opportunity, you're not interested in going a little bit more with the early adopter crowd, I do think then probably crowdfunding honestly is not the best fit for you. The other thing I would say is that if you just don't fit into one of the categories, it might not be a good fit for you. So for example, if on Kickstarter, you can't find a category that relates with your campaign, maybe you do a coaching call with me and you're like, Sal, I can't find a category. And you then maybe just don't have a project which is going to appeal to a lot of people or appeal to the masses. If you don't have a physical product, if you're not trying to change the world, if you're not doing, for example, a nonprofit crowdfunding campaign or a charitable crowdfunding campaign, maybe crowdfunding is not the right approach for you. The other thing I would say is that in this upcoming year of 2023, thinking really about what you want to do for the people that are going to participate. If you're like, I don't really want to involve other people in my project. I don't want people to pre-order it. I don't want maybe when it comes to equity crowdfunding investors, I don't want people to be able to participate in this. I'm not really interested in growing a community around this. Then crowdfunding is probably not the best fit for you. If you're just looking to sell something and to kind of be like a faceless corporate entity and you're not interested in having any kind of dialogue or meaningful discussion with the customers, this is definitely not the approach for you. Maybe you should be going more and looking at distribution channels. Maybe you should be looking more of a licensing deal or collecting royalties where you don't actually have to put in the work of building a community. But if you're the type of person that's like, I've looked at that, but honestly, I think I actually want a community around my brand and want to be able to talk with these people, be able to get feedback, even get feedback on ideas along with the actual product or thing that I'm doing, then I think that crowdfunding is probably going to be a good fit for you. The last thing that I will say when it comes to crowdfunding and whether or not this is a good fit for you this upcoming year, then we're going to end this episode with one or two really key critical things that you should take away. The last thing I would say is that I think that crowdfunding is incredible and phenomenal, and there's so many great benefits when it comes to this. However, one of the major drawbacks that I consistently see is the need to be able to keep your promises. So we've seen so many of these different crowdfunding campaigns where sometimes they are great at promising the moon, and they're great at marketing, and they're great at sales. Maybe they listen to my podcast, right? Maybe they've read my book. However, if you don't follow up that greatness in marketing with also being able to deliver the product, being able to deliver on your promises, being able to actually follow up with what you say you're going to do, then you just kind of leave this really bad taste in the mouth of your backers, your community, the people who have supported you, and you really hurt the crowdfunding community and crowdfunding industry as a whole, because people then start to trust it less and less. So I think you're doing more harm than good. So if you're the type of person that can't follow through, if you're the type of person that's not going to be able to show up once you actually accumulate all those sales, deliver and ship those products to your backers, and really almost, I'd say, be very transparent about that, then I honestly recommend don't do crowdfunding, because you're just going to hurt the community as a whole. You're not the type of person I want to work with anyway. And honestly, I think there are just many other different avenues which you can do just to make some quick, quote unquote, cash or to make some fast money that's not going to involve crowdfunding in it. So we went over a lot of stuff so far in the podcast. I'm just going to, end this episode with a couple of really essential things in terms of the ways that you should be thinking about 2023. So the first thing is that if your mind is already on the future, if you're at this point in the show and you're listening, you are literally one of the rarest people when it comes to starting a business, being a creator, being an inventor, being a designer, being someone who's trying to get something out there and impact the world. You, my friend, are the cream of the crop, because the majority of people, they're not thinking about the future. They're stuck in the present. Right? So you're actually planning, you're thinking ahead. You need to use that to your advantage. If you're trying to come out with a new project, really sit down and be like, maybe what are some of my goals that I want to have when it comes to this project? How much money do I need to raise? What kind of funding am I looking for? What would success look like if it was to happen? Look at and research some other campaigns as well when it comes to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, WeFunder, whatever type of platform you're trying to go after. Go out there and research and get a reference of some of the other projects. Maybe it could be different than yours, but maybe in a similar industry. For example, you come out with a new backpack. Okay, look at some of the other apparel campaigns, accessory campaigns. You come out with a new kitchen appliance. Go and look at some of the other kitchen accessories. How much are they raising? How are they doing their marketing? Not only will that be very informative, but it also will show you that success is possible. The last thing the second to last thing, that's incredibly important is you have to surround yourself with the right sources. Okay. So if you're trying to accomplish anything in life, let's just say you're trying to become a doctor. What do you do if you try to become a doctor? Well, you're probably going to go and hang out with doctors. You're probably going to go to med school. You're probably going to read books, attend lectures, listen to the process, understand about the career path, understand about what is next. The more that you know the road ahead in life, the more that the confidence you're going to have. But the more uncertainty you have about the future, the more fear you have. So the more that you can actually dial in and understand the process, understand the future, understand the steps, the techniques, the strategies, the stuff we try to share about on this show, the more you can do that, it builds confidence. When you're just kind of working in your own little silo and you're not talking with anyone, not sharing with anyone, you're not learning about anything, it creates a tremendous amount of fear. Because you don't know what's out there. You don't know the road ahead. You don't even know what other people are doing in order to produce success. So if you're willing to lean into that and really make this period of this next year not only be filled with hustle and hard work and moving the ball down the court, but also if you're willing to learn and be like a sponge and absorb everything possible to help you get towards that goal, then I do think that this upcoming year is one of the best years possible to launch a new campaign. The final thing that I'm going to say when it comes to this is really more about, being able to have something that you're proud of. And in my life, I've tried to launch many different types of things, many different types of products and different websites and all that kind of stuff. And from all of the guests that I've interviewed, which I think we now have nearly 400 guests that I've interviewed, of all the people that I've helped when it comes to my YouTube channel, my podcast, my blog, my coaching students, all the individuals who I've seen who have been successful and not been successful, there's one thing which is in common of all of these. There's one thing. And that thing is that typically someone who's successful in a much larger way, not only do they have a product that resonates with people, not only are they going after a big industry or audience or have something, a niche, audience that they're going after, but they're also freaking passionate about it. They are willing to put everything in the line in order to be successful. And that's because they care, not just about the products, but also about the people that they're serving, the customers, who's actually going to own that at the end of the day. And for them, the happiest moment is not when they're raising, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a website like Kickstarter. Their happiest moment is when they start to get those Instagram posts, Instagram stories, tweets, emails, messages of people who actually receive the product on their doorstep. And they're like, this thing is so freaking cool. That's when you get a product in the wild and when the entire experience is so incredibly rewarding. Because what you realize is that what came as an idea one night, and maybe it was a sketch on a napkin, or maybe it was just this crazy, wacky idea you had that you forgot about even for a couple of months or years, and eventually you return to it. That simple idea has actually turned into something physical, something in the real world that other people can buy, other people can own, other people can experience, can use, can get the benefits of, share it with their friends. And when you realize that, that changes everything, man, because that means that you can turn your ideas into reality, and you can turn all those incredible thoughts and ideas and things that you're brainstorming, you can turn those into physical products. And my friend, you can literally do it with the snap of your fingers. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a positive rating and review on this podcast. Also, go and check out my YouTube channel at Salvador Briggman. Go and check out my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, or my Equity Crowdfunding Explained book. Really great places to start. And finally, for those of you that want to get a jump start on this, like, man, I am ready. I am rearing to go. You need to sell anything to me, Sal. I am so excited. If you're already that kind of person and you're ready, you're very serious about this, and you're like, I want to make this a massive year. I want to make 2023 really the year that I look back on and like, I accomplished so many things. I actually was successful. I launched this, to look back on this year as one of the most fondest years in your memories. Go and check out my intensive one-on-one coaching, because this is going to be a game changer for you. With my intensive one-on-one coaching calls, you can call in. We're going to do an intensive coaching call, go through the entire strategy of launching the campaign, talk about what you need to do to be successful, assess your existing assets, give you feedback, connect you with other people in the industry, provide resources. And in some cases, I also work one-on-one with students, helping them launch their campaigns as well in a long-term basis. So if you're interested in learning more about that, go and check out that at crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. We'll take you there, and you can get that call scheduled ASAP. Thank you so much. Hope you have an incredible holiday. Hope you have a great time, and I will see you next time.